We are just days away from the second major of 2021, the PGA Championship. Welcome into Catch Out with the Coaches and our preview show, powered as always by our incredible partners and sponsors from Sports Pub Media. Follow them on Twitter and on Instagram. I am the coach. He is Travis Fulton. And Trav, I got to tell you, I am fired up and ready for the PGA Championship. Colin Morikawa is our defending champion, and we are going to a course that is very long, very difficult, and I'm here for it. How are you?
I'm good. It's coming, right? Second major of the calendar year. What is it? The fourth of the super season.
Correct.
So we've got two more after that, the U.S. Open and the Open Championship. It feels like 3 years ago when Colin Morikawa won the PGA Championship.
It really
at
does.
TPC Harding Park. But the spirits are up. The difference this time around, there's going to be fans there. And this is a big boy golf course. I mean, goodness gracious. Kiwi on the Goshen course, you better buckle up. I think we're in the 7,800 range here for
Correct.
Distance. You better have the driver working. You better have the irons working. And these greens, they're pushed up. They're exposed to the wind. So you better make some putts too. And if you don't hit the greens, well, you better have a short game. You're going to have it all here, Coach. But it's exciting. It's a beautiful place. It's a Pete Dye design. I love Pete Dye golf courses. He gives you a lot to think about. He gives you options. You're going to see different ways going about it, playing the course. But let's make no mistake. It's going to favor the bomber. You got length here.
Yep.
You're going to have an advantage.
All right, so over the course of the next 30 to 45 minutes, we're going to hit on our biggest storylines, the big names and what we think about them, also our sleepers, and we're also going to name one player that has never won a major but could get their first major next week at the PGA Championship. Also, a very, very, very special guest, the caddy for Webb Simpson, one of the great interviews in golf, Paul Tesori, will join us right here on the show. He's been there before. He's looped it before. He understands what this course is all about. I'm excited for this interview, Trav.
Yeah, I've known Paul a long time. I think he's one of the best caddies on tour. He's been with Webb for a while now. They've had a lot of success. Of course, Webb won the U.S. Open with him. I'm going to be interested to see how Webb is doing. He had to withdraw it from with his neck. So hopefully, the update on that will be positive. But you want to stay around from that. Paul Tesori, he is great stuff, and he will fill it up. I promise you here in a few minutes.
People tell me all the time, they're like, Coach, you carry the show. What does Trav do? I was like, he gets good guests. I mean, so today you're actually holding up your part. So I appreciate that. I really do. I'm just playing. All right, let's jump right in. Let's start with our first big storyline at the PGA Championship. Trav, what do you got?
Well, I think the first storyline, it has to be Spieth, doesn't it? I mean, this is going to be the hottest player coming into this event. I mean, he is back. He is playing great golf. The driver, it's in play. I know he's not the longest, but I think he's going to be just fine here on this golf course, hitting that driver out there and letting this iron game go to work. Jordan Spieth, once again, is one of the best iron players in the world. The short game, we know, is second to none. The putter is magic. He's going to come in here, and the narrative now, Coach, is he is one win here at Kiawah Island from winning the career Grand Slam. And to think that we're having this conversation right now, everything that I just said, if someone would have told you that 4 or 5 months ago, or even you go back to when we played the PGA last time, the struggle was real. People were talking about Jordan Spieth he was just a phase. He's lost it. The game has passed us by. You don't chase distance. I was critical of him in certain areas, but I always thought he would be back. And to see him now, in my eyes, the number one storyline coming in to win the career Grand Slam, it's just amazing. And he is playing some serious golf right now.
There you see the number on Jordan Spieth, plus 1,400. To give you an idea of where his number was in January for the Masters, it was 50-1. It was plus 5,000. And now he's come all the way down to plus 1,400, coming off the win a couple of months ago in Texas. I feel like he's different than when Rory goes after the career Grand Slam at the Masters, because I feel like Jordan embraces the pressure and embraces the moment. We've seen him over the years just come up with some spectacular shots during the biggest moment. Travelers comes to mind. The Open Championship comes to mind. So I feel like if he gets in the the mix at the PGA Championship, that the moment won't be too big for him, even though it's impossible, Trav, to get it out of your mind that if you get the career Grand Slam, you raise your name, your legacy, what people think about you in the game to a level that very, very, very few players ever attain. I think he could get it done. And the way he's hitting it right now, doesn't matter the wind, doesn't matter the length. If he doesn't hit the green, his short game's good enough. He's got the total package. I love him next week.
The only thing that's going to hold him back is the driver. That's it. I mean, if he sprays the driver there, it is pretty open there. But if you get off those fairways, you got trouble. So if he does lose the driver and he loses his confidence there, that's the only thing in my eyes that can hold him back. But make no mistake, he gets near the lead late on Sunday. There's no stage that's too big for Jordan Spieth. He's a closer. He's not afraid to have the lead and extend it, and he's not afraid to be 1 or 2 off and go get it. I think if I'm trying to win that tournament, that's the one name I don't want to see around is Jordan Spieth.
All right, very good. So my first big storyline is Ricky Fowler. And so much was made
your boy
a month ago when he got a special exemption based off his career earnings. They made up a bunch of stats on why they were giving it to him. Let's be honest, some people are happy about it, and there's going to be some players that may be the first or second or third guy locked out that is not happy about it because he didn't qualify. It's a special exemption. He's plus 8,000 right now to win the PGA Championship. And I just think I really honestly don't feel one way or the other, but on some level, because of where his game's at, that's why he got the special exemption. So if his game is not at a PGA Tour winning level, then why would you give a special exemption to a player that his game is so far away from being competitive? If he had been out for an injury or something of that nature, but he has been so bad, I just don't understand giving him this exemption when his game does not match up to it. That's how I feel.
Yeah. His last top 10 was January 5th, 2020. That was the Tournament of Champions. And his last win was the Waste Management back in January of 2019. So that's the scope of thing. He's clearly struggled. The swing changes we have talked about, I've talked about a ton. And even when he went down this path, I said, I don't like it. I don't like what he's trying to change, the magnitude of it. I would be surprised if it works. I wouldn't want the job if I was a teacher, and it hadn't worked. I mean, it just hadn't worked. The driver's been okay, but his iron game is not good. And the problem is it's leaked into his putter. So his game is a mess. And can he get it back? We'll have to see. Coach, I think I'm okay with the exemption this time around. It feels like, they're kind of lobbing him one here as a thank you to everything that he has done for the game. And I think Ricky Fowler has earned it. He's a 5-time winner. I know he's probably a little underachieved perhaps for his talent. It rubs people the wrong way with all of his commercials and this and that. But when you look at having a brand and putting yourself out there, like you say a lot with players, Ricky's done that. And I think he's done a nice job with the youth and rallying them. So I think when you add it all up, Ricky's on the way down. It's easy to kick him to the side. I think the PGA special exemption, I'm okay with it this one time.
Okay. Well, what I believe he should do is tell his agents and his team, no more commercials for 6 months because of the perception. Let me dig in and kind of do what Jordan did. Go to work. Don't let anybody see it. Just grind and then stop with everything else and then come back in the fall. You're still going to get the same amount of money and the same amount of commercials. All right, let's move on. Storyline number 2 for you is?
Well, I think you have to go to Dustin Johnson. I mean, how many times can someone withdraw?
Brutal.
Over the last 2 or 3 months? I believe the count is up to 3 now.
It's awful.
Withdrew from the, withdrew last week, right, at Wells. And
correct.
So, where are we at?
Byron Nelson. Well,
I'm sorry. Yeah.
The Byron Nelson.
Yeah, the Byron Nelson. So he withdrew at the Byron Nelson. So now he's coming into this and he, he's kind of citing a knee injury.
He ripped it from RBC too, didn't he?
Yeah. There's been 3 events here, I think, in the last 3 months. I don't have it right in front of me, but there's just so many question marks, with Dustin and where is he at health-wise? Is this really an issue? You certainly want to say, well, he's, there's other stuff going on and speculate. That just feels like there's a lot of smoke here. When you just putting that all aside, when we have seen DJ play, I think he fought the driver. I think the new driver in the bag becomes an issue for certain players when the manufacturers want them to switch it out. I think that was a problem. I think he really fought it there for a little bit. I think it's better now. And then you start seeing that putting situation where he quickly will start to change putters, and it feels like this, bad cycle once in a while. And then he usually comes out on the end of it. Everything gets organized, and then off he goes, and he just starts ripping people apart. It feels like we're a little bit away from that right now. It feels like there's some pieces that still need to be put back together. He was 48th at Valspar, 13th at RBC, missed the cut at the Masters. It just feels like there's more to be done here with DJ. But he is a storyline. He is the number one player in the world, Coach. So he can show up, catch a hot putter, and all of a sudden he can be a contender come the weekend. But I don't think I'll be putting any money on him, even though to me he is one of the major stories.
I think fans need to also understand, Trav, whether it's Dustin Johnson now, whether it was Rory before he won at Wells Fargo, whether it was Spieth before that golf's a really, really hard game. And you're going to go through your peaks and your valleys. And it seems like last year, because of what Dustin did, and he was winning everything. It was like winning 4 out of 6. He dominated at the Masters, that this guy can't get beat. Nobody can touch him. And then he goes through his lulls because so many things factor in to playing good golf, and everything has to align at the end of the week, Thursday through Sunday, for you to be successful. But right now, we're not talking about his game. Yeah. We're talking about him just actually showing up. And part of the reason he makes so much money off the course is because he shows up, and because these sponsors hope and they count on him and they pay him millions of dollars to show up. So maybe you shouldn't jump off the back of a boat on video and post it, and then withdraw saying, I have knee discomfort that comes and goes from time to time. Is that time to time whenever you take your boat out? Is that when it comes and goes? It's not a good look. Perception nowadays is everything because of social media, and it's not a good look that Dustin is withdrawing so many times in a short period of time when you're one of the 5 biggest draws in golf. It's not a good look.
No, I think you make valid points, and I tend to agree with all of them, to be honest. And that's painful for me to say that I agree with every point that you just said.
Now, all right, our next final storyline. I know it is. Before we get to Paul Tesori, we're very excited to talk to him. This may not be a popular topic, and I worked a lot with the PGA of America, and we have gone to battle at certain times because I have my opinions about how they do certain things with their business. And the PGA Championship still to this day, Trav, saves 20 spots in one of the 4 majors in professional golf for club professionals. And the only time they get seen is CBS makes a point and ESPN to show them at least once, every player at least once. And then on Sunday, Jim Nantz says, so let's take a look at the club professionals and how they have done today. And then they have a separate scoreboard. But they're still in the regular tournament. To me, the days of 20 golfers taking spots when you've got pros that deserve to play, when none of these 20, none of them have a shot to win, I think they have to reconsider and relook and maybe take it down to 10. I would even take it down to 5 and make it really, really special to get in.
Once again, I tend to agree with you on this. And here are your 20. Danny Balin, Peter Vallow, Alex Beach, Frank Bensell Jr., Tyler Collette, Ben Cook, Mark Gittes, Larkin Gross, Derek Holmes, Greg Koch, Ron Labritz, Brad Merrick, Tim Pierce, Ben Pollan, Patrick Rada, Sonny Skinner, Stuart Smith, Joe Summerhays, Omar Uresti, Brett Walker. Of those 20, where do you got your money? Which one do you want to take in the matchup?
I don't know any of them.
You're going to take Omar.
I don't know any of them.
You're going to take Omar Uresti because he's got it.
Well, he shouldn't be allowed to play in that tournament because he used to be a touring pro. I mean, and people say that about him he wins every year by 7 or 8, and he gets into the PGA Championship. He should be allowed.
It feels like 20. 20 feels like a big number, doesn't it?
Yes,
right? I mean, it just feels like a big number. I like the idea of what they're doing and, giving back to the PGA professional. I think it's important for them to be active and playing in the game. And okay, let's reward the top 10 that get in. 20 feels like a big number, but I do like the idea of them playing. Let's bring it down to 10, compromise, and off we go.
next week, because we're still going to do a full PGA championship show where we make our picks, I'm going to bring onto the show names that are not in the PGA championship, that are touring pros, that are being locked out by these 20 club pros. And I bet you that some of the names are really going to surprise you. Okay,
Keith
those
Mitchell.
are our top. There you go. Those are our top 4 storylines for the PGA Championship. You're watching our PGA Championship preview here on Cash Out with the Coaches, powered as always by Sports Pub. Still to come in the show, we're going to take a look at our biggest names to watch and also some sleepers, maybe some under-the-radar players that could make some noise next week at the PGA Championship. But now, we're excited to welcome into the show. He is the caddy for Webb Simpson for the last 10 years. They have one of the greatest relationships on tour. They've done so many things together, and we're excited to have him right now here on Cash Out with the Coaches, Paul Tesori. Our guest this week has been with Webb Simpson since 2011. They have won 7 times on the PGA Tour, one of the best, if not the best duo out on the PGA Tour. Paul Tesori, welcome to Cash Out with the Coaches.
I love that introduction. Can I do that again?
It's nice, right? Well, that's why I host the show. We don't let Travis host. There's reasons why.
What a great start already.
I just asked the tough and good question, so we'll get to that later.
There you go. Well, Paul, the reason you're on this week, this is our big PGA Championship preview. And there's so many great storylines right now on the PGA Tour, and your guy is definitely one of them. We've got to ask right from the start, though, heading into next week, how you guys are feeling about everything and the fact that Webb's game for the last year has really been in form. He absolutely is in major championship form.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, last week at Quail Hollow was a big disappointment for Weber. Had a great practice session Tuesday. Very excited about the week. And at the middle of nowhere on Tuesday afternoon, he tweaks his neck. Didn't think it was a big deal at the moment. Got some good therapy. His trainer lives there in the same city limits, 25 minutes away. He wakes up Wednesday morning. He can't really move his neck. Withdrawals from the Pro-Am Wednesday morning. Still hopeful a whole day. Thursday can't go. And it stayed with us Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Finally woke up Monday morning. It's kind of like, oh, okay, I can move it a little bit better. And then, thankfully, he played golf today for the first time. Played pain-free today. And so the PGA is 100% go. And, we're excited to go battle the beast at Kiowa. That's my little nickname for it. So it's a monster.
Well, let's talk about it. Kiowa, Kiowa Island, the ocean course. You've been there many times. You've looped it. I mean, just give us kind of the cliff notes here. What are we going to see going into the PGA Championship? This beast, as you call it. Yeah. What the guys are up against? Yeah,
obviously it's going to be the longest course in major championship history. They listed it at 78.76, which for me is just mentally almost impossible for me to fathom, because I just went through. I got my 2012 yardage book here, and I just went through, and it was at 76, I think 50 then, and it already felt almost insurmountable at times. Now, 210 yards in the last 9 years, to be honest with you, is not very many to spread out through the golf course with as strong as guys have gotten this day, as long as guys are hitting the golf. I know Webb personally since 2012, he probably flies at 20 yards farther than he did there. So that won't be too big of a thing, but there's a lot of force carries around Kiowa. And so it's a situation for me. I already looked at the forecast. It looks like it's going to be slightly cool, like upper 70s, and not much rain. The rain is going to be the big thing for a player like Webb. It's going to be, if we can keep some roll in the fairways, it'll give us a little bit more of an advantage to be able to still get the ball out there, get it running a little bit. All of Webb's 7 wins have been on fairly firm golf courses where you can kind of get the ball out there and then able to use his strength, which is his iron play. So I think you're going to see very similar scores as last time, with the exception of maybe one non-runaway winner this time. I would think somewhere, in those upper single digits, you would imagine. But if some reason rain comes in and the greens are soft, that's the one thing, no matter how long you make a golf course, if the greens are soft, these players are so good and so talented. If they can hold the greens, they're going to play great golf, and it'll be double digits again.
We know this course is very exposed. And when you talk about short game, you mentioned the iron game, and then also driving is going to be very, very important because of the length. What do you think, Paul, is going to be the most important part of a player's game next week that has to be absolutely on point in order to be successful?
Yeah, I'll start with you have to have a great week driving the golf ball. And it doesn't mean that you have to be Bryson or Rory as far as length goes. It doesn't mean even those guys, you have to drive the ball well. The fairways are wide, but outside the fairways, you have a lot of issues. And, if you get in the winds down, they're not really going to have a problem. But you stand up on some of those tee boxes with those crosswinds coming at you 15 or 20 miles an hour, especially that left to right wind, which righties don't like. If you get enough of those and you try to get a little of that right hand in to hold some of those winds, the outside of the playability part can be really penal. So whoever wins that week is going to drive the ball incredibly well that week. Now, we all know you still have to have the other parts of the game have to be working, good distance control with your irons. Short game needs to be fairly strong and then putt well, but you won't have someone drive it poorly and still win there.
Yeah, Pete Dye, he's got that visual intimidation too off the tee on so many of them, like TPC Sawgrass. Webb's played pretty well there. And here's another spot here with Pete Dye. And he's also pretty good at making greens. These greens, they're pushed up, aren't they? They are really crowned up. Yes. Talk about the greens being pushed up and then how they're exposed to those winds that you mentioned.
Yeah, very, very similar. We played concession down in South Florida earlier in the year for the WGC. Same thing. I've always loved designers. You had mentioned Pete Dye. I love the work that he's done. I love Harbortown, TPC, but Harbortown's just under 7,000 yards. TPC 7,210. Now we're going to put Pete Dye at 7876. It seems insurmountable. Again, like when a lot of these times I'll walk these golf courses and I'm like, how are we going to shoot under par? But then when you get out there and you see obviously the level these guys are playing at, you can see it. But you mentioned the greens, and I think that's what really separates some of these courses. Like concession, I think would be impossible for like a two handicapper to go play. But you stick it out there for tour players, and it was actually a great test. It made sense. Kiawah, in my opinion, is the same thing. If you held a club championship there, I think it would be extremely difficult for any good scores, decent scores to come out. But then these guys go play it, and you can see, okay, I understand now. It's no longer just your routine 6-iron from the middle of the fairway. Now it's a 6-iron that you're trying to create loft to, maybe also trying to manipulate ball flight, either left to right or right to left, depending on the flags. Because when you raise the greens, and if you have a back left flag, you can't just hit your normal cut at it. You actually have to go right of it and turn it back to that flag if you want to get it within 15 feet. And a lot of the times on tour, you can just aim it, 15 feet right of the pin, hit it 15 feet, 18 feet right of the pin and be okay. Well, here you kind of got to manipulate it a little bit. So Pete Dye at 78-76. I'm glad I'm caddying and not playing.
I can't tell you how good it makes me feel, Paul, to hear you say, we walk onto a course, like, how does somebody shoot under par? I felt the same way the first time I walked onto Augusta National. How does anybody play here? Working for ESPN, which segues into my next question. ESPN just announced in the last day or so, there's going to be more coverage of the PGA Championship than the history of championship golf.
Wow.
First, it's going to be crazy. I do PGA Tour Live a lot, and I love when you guys are on PGA Tour Live because of the fact that we get to hear you guys talk to each other and the communication. When you go into a major championship, how important is that communication with your player?
Yeah, I think obviously it doesn't matter what realm of life you're in. If it's marriage, if it's fatherhood, if it's working doing what you guys are doing right now, communication's everything. And so like Webb and I, one thing, it's been weird because, we've grown kind of together. At the very beginning, it was pretty much I was the type A and he was just kind of listening. And then as he started popping out kids every other year and a half, with 5 of them now, things started to shift. Well, and now Webb he's a veteran now, and Webb knows what he's doing on a golf course. So my role is a lot lower now. And so really, I think a lot of our work and our communication happens Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, where we spend a lot of time going over the golf course. We play what we call slow nines. We only usually play 9 a day. He didn't play 18 in practice rounds very often. We play a slow 9, probably a 2.5 to 3 hour 9 holes. We'll let even a group come through, 2 groups come through, because we're spending so much time around the golf course saying, okay, if it's downwind, where are we going? If it's into the wind, where are we going? Around the greens, right pin, we're out of position. Where are we trying to miss this ball? And so I think our communication now basically happens a lot more Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and then bleeds into the tournament a lot more seamlessly than it used to be. And so I think that part's a lot easier. And Webb makes it easy. He lets me be who I am. And so I don't have to worry about nitpicking my words quite as much as I would with some of the other players on tour.
How cool has it been to have these fans back, Paul? I mean,
man, it's So it's actually two answers. It was really nice and quiet for a while. But that being said, the energy definitely was a huge impact on week in, week out. I found myself making some mistakes on occasion out of, I don't want to use the word boredom because it's not the truth, out of more of like, I would just get a little flighty in my thoughts. And when it's so quiet and there's no noise around, there's no energy around, it's very easy for your mind to wander. And I think if you go back and look at guys like Tiger and Rory who really struggled when there weren't fans, played in front of them their entire lives, but you also look at the benefit it gave some of our younger players who got to come out on tour. And like, I think Scotty Scheffler is a great example that you got to come out on tour. We all obviously know the talent, and you got to come out and get comfortable again. It was the same 0 fans. It was less fans than there was on the Korn Ferry Tour. And now he's got this confidence. Now that fans are back, he's ready to rock. So I think it was kind of an evening tool for a little bit, where now with the fans being back, I think it'll start tipping the scale back into who we would call our stars, our world-class player. I think it'll start coming out a little bit more.
You know, you mentioned Rory, Paul, and he's very open and honest in his interviews, which is why we love him.
Yeah.
And he admitted that he had started to practice and tried to get linked because of what Bryson has done. You've got a player that has been successful and continues to be not doing that, not being that way. How hard has it been for Webb, if at all, to ignore what a lot of these bombers are doing and keep the game that he has, which is obviously good enough to win a U.S. Open?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, tremendous question. The answer is, I mean, we're chasing distance as well, just in a much slower way. Webb, since 2017, Webb's put on 23 pounds and lost 5 pounds of fat. So he's gained almost 30 pounds of muscle in the last 4 years. We busted 280 in the air for the first time in the summer of in August of 2017. And he's now busted 300. So in 3.5 years, he's gained 20 yards in the air. And so he is going that way. But like, we know that, distance, it's a tool, it's a talent, it's something you can learn, but how do you do it and then still play at the level that these guys are playing at? And that's been the balance. We've gotten in trouble one time in between. Webb's been a world-class iron player his entire career, top 20 strokes gained, approach to the green every year. Well, late last fall and kind of the first part of this year, we started seeing some weird numbers. Our strokes gained off the tee was up. Our numbers were up off the tee, but our iron play we were 100th on tour. And I started really looking at video, and I was seeing an iron play. His head was backing up, trying to create more of that upward path. It was because he had worked so hard on the driver, creating a bigger up hit on it. It had bled into his iron game. And it's so incrementally small that you don't see it when it's happening, but 6 months later, you're like, what has happened? And so it's that kind of fine balance. And I think that's what Rory is saying. And because he is Rory McIlroy, former world number 1, 4-time major winner, it's going to be on a grander scale. And, we played with him at the Players those first 2 days when he struggled so much. And if you look back in the past, he's had a couple little periods like that, and he's come out really hot on the other end. I just love the fact of how honest he is. And all of us are chasing distance. We're just going to do it a different way. Webb's never going to bulk up, but in his own way, he's getting stronger, losing fat, working on speed. It's just going to be on a slower scale.
Well, I'm looking at the stats right here. You mentioned the approach game. Last time at RBC Heritage, +5. We'll take that this week. And he really, Paul, the putter's been okay, but it hasn't been like hot, right? It's been a while since Webb's had that hot putting week. Yeah. So we go +5 approach. Let's go +5 or 6 in putting. Could be the second major championship. I'm just saying. I know it's 700-800, but
Travis, I love that. It's people ask about Quail Hollow, and I believe Quail Hollow is built for one style player, and that's who can hit it the farthest, because you have to carry these bunkers. I think he was the same way, and there's a big but. Abraham Answer lost by 1. Him and Webb hit the ball the exact same distance. They're both really good iron players, tenacious competitors, and so Webb can win at a course like Kiowa.
Yeah.
You're going to have to be really, really strong in a couple areas where maybe a guy that hits as far doesn't have to be. He can definitely win. But like you just said, it needs to be a special week for us with the putter. The good thing is we figured the golf swing out on the weekend at the Masters. The last 6 rounds he's played, he's hit it great. And the putter, he missed a 4.5-footer for birdie on the 71st hole at Hilton Head at Harbortown. and he's never done this. He asked me where that miss comes from. I told him where it came from. Same thing. He has a tendency with his head. He's always kind of gone a little bit up and back with his head, but it's been going too much putting. We worked on it after he finished the tournament. We went to the putting green for 10 minutes and worked on it to make sure he clear his head. And so I think he'll play well. He's going to be fresh. He's going to be hungry. We got 3 weeks off after Kiowa. So, man, we haven't played very many tournaments this year, and we're starting to dwindle down that Ryder Cup rankings. We're dwindling down the FedEx Cup, and he's a competitor, so I know he really wants to play well that week.
Paul, last question, and we'll let you get out of here. Your reputation with Webb is second to none. The last 10 years have been amazing. So many great stories about you and Webb, and we could tell from the last 15 minutes in this interview just how cool and fun you are. But tell me, what's been the best part of your 10-year relationship, getting to have a firsthand view right up close with one of the great players on the PGA Tour?
Yeah, man, that's a deep question, and you don't have enough time for me probably to answer the whole scale, but two things pop up to my mind right away. And first of all, like professionally winning the Players in 18 was the greatest accomplishment I've been able to be a part of. I've been fortunate enough to win 25 times caddying, U.S. Open in 12, but we had gone through that big stretch after the USGA putter ban, 3.5 years of really putting poorly. We hadn't won 4.5 years. And for us to be able to go and win wire to wire the way we did, the place I grew up, my grandfather taught me to play right down the road. Special week. And to be able to do it with Webb, one of my best friends in the world, but also do it coming off a slump, it felt even more special to do it and break that stretch. And then the one thing I tell so many people about it, and this is not because he's my boss, but I wish people had more of an opportunity to get to know Webb. He's truly the greatest human being I've ever met. I don't know how he is who he is. I think sometimes I've seen, like, people think he's fake. I remember Luke Donald and Justin Rose used to not like him that much, because when he first came on the scene in 2011 and, winning golf tournaments, almost winning the FedEx Cup, they thought it was fake. But then the next year, they're sitting down and having lunch with him and all that, because they realized that's just who he is. He's got the best sense of humor of anybody I've ever met. Everything's funny to him, which makes me feel funnier. So that's a great way to go. And he's somebody I look up to as a father and a husband and a friend. And even though he's 13 years younger than me, he's somebody I look up to. And just I love what I get to do and who I get to do it for. And I wouldn't change it for the world.
Well, I tell you what, we absolutely love when we get to interview people that are in your position, because Travis, obviously, golf is his life. I love golf more than anything. We've really enjoyed this interview. We wish you nothing but the best next week. We'll obviously be watching, and we would love to see you and Webb holding that trophy with.
If we pull it off, you got to have me on the next week. That's
okay.
Whoa! Okay. Do not tease us, because we will do it.
I have right now. Sign it in a contract. I want to see a piece of paper come up on the board. That's all.
Guaranteed. We got 3 weeks off though, so you don't want to be talking to us.
That's I'll talk to you once a week. If we win I'll come on every day. If we win the PGA.
Oh my god! We don't need a contract for that. All we need is a link. You are the man, Paul Tesori.
Paul, thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Thanks for having me on. I love the talk. Have a good one.
Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
My goodness, how good was that interview with Paul Tesori?
He's the man. He's got a lot to say, and he can articulate it, and he can explain it in a way that it makes sense. Good energy. He's the best. I was so happy when he agreed to come on. It was awesome.
Great job by you. The art of storytelling. Not everybody can do it because they make the story too long.
Yeah.
He just makes it just the right amount of time.
Yeah, it's perfect.
And then it never feels like it's too long. All right, let's jump back into our PGA Championship preview now. Thanks to Paul Tesori. We're going to get into our big names that we're keeping an eye on next week as we head to Kiowa Island. And number one on your list, and this is the way that it should be, Trav. Who do you got?
He's back. Big name, Rory McIlroy. I said at the beginning of the year, or at the beginning of the month, this was a big month for him to get it back. A, he's going to Quail Hollow, where he's won twice. B, he's going to now Kiowa Island, where he's won the PGA Championship back in 2012. So he's already clipped off one of them, and at the Wells Fargo. And now here we go. Let's just move it on over here and keep the train going. I really think, and Paul touched on this, the fans coming back, all the difference in the world for the focus and the energy of Rory McIlroy. And you could see it at the end. He was emotional about it and what the fans meant to him to keep him in the moment and pushing forward. The fade off the tee, iron game back on point. How many times have I told you this little backup move when you chase distance, right? Mm-hmm. And Paul mentioned it with Webb. It's detrimental to the iron. It's exactly what happened to Rory.
You always say that.
He's back
always say that.
with the fade and the iron game at Wells, positive 5.5. If he goes up to Kiawah and goes positive 7 strokes gained putting like he did at Wells Fargo, he's going to win again. I know Jordan is great and he's rolling, but if Rory starts busting that driver out there and the putter's working, Rory McIlroy is going to win the PGA Championship.
Do you know what I think about when I think about Rory winning the PGA Championship the last time? I think about darkness. I think about rushing to the finish line. You remember that? You remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Nicholson's getting all angry because he's being pressed and kind of pushed out of the way by Rory. It was an amazing finish, too.
It was.
Really an amazing week for Rory.
Just stepping up there on 18, fills off by the fairway bunker, and the ball just comes back, bam, and it just comes right there. Like, what the?
That was so great. Rory's like, I'm winning this thing, and I'm winning it tonight. I'm not coming back tomorrow. That was so great. I echo a lot of what you're saying, because before Quail Hollow, it was easy to fade him. And I was one of the ones that shouted it from the mountaintops. Rory hasn't figured it out. Well, the weekend before, he didn't play, and he figured it out. And I said, you could have let us know that before you won Quail Hollow, so I got a bet on you at 20-1. He didn't tell anybody, and then he goes out and he gets the job done. He clearly, when he's at his best, I think he's the best player on the PGA Tour, and that includes Dustin Johnson, when he's at his absolute best. And right now, it looks like all the things that he had issues with, he has fixed. And if he fixes them and he can drive the ball at Kiawah Island, he will win, and he'll probably win by more than a couple of shots.
I'm here for it.
All right, my big name that I'm keeping an eye on is the champion from 2018, 2019, and that is Brooks Koepka. It's easy to forget that he's won 4 major championships and 2 of the last 3 PGA championships. Now, at the Byron Nelson, he came back, and he still had to do that thing where he laid to the side when he was trying to, but he says, I'm in a completely different place now than I was a month ago when I had to train 8 hours a day just to play at Augusta National. Now, if that's true, maybe he's just protecting himself by how he's lining up putts. But if I'm looking at that, I'm thinking he's not even close to 100%. But he has shown us before, twice at the U.S. Open, twice at the PGA Championship, that when he's on his game, he's the ultimate grinder, and he gets big-time shots. And I think we need to keep an eye on Brooks. If he is 85 or 90%, this feels like, Trav, a situation and a moment that's suited for Brooks Koepka.
I just I've watched him play now. We're taping this obviously the week before the PGA, and they're in the Byron, and got to watch him a little bit walk around on Thursday. I was expecting him to be moving a little bit better, to be quite honest. You can tell it's still bothering him a little bit. Certainly not like he was at Augusta, but I was hoping to see a little cleaner gait pattern and getting down to mark your ball and those kinds of things. So it's clearly there, but I agree. I mean, you look at Brooks, he can turn it on. I mean, he had 3 straight missed cuts before the Waste Management Phoenix Open, and then he wins. And then he goes second at WGC, the Masters. He was hurt. So do we need this runway for Brooks to come back? I don't think so. I think he's the kind of guy that can just, he's there. I feel good. Things are in sync. Off I go. Right. And I'll grind, and I don't care if I got a little pain. I think it's interesting. I think he's a really interesting person. I actually just look, I took the odds and put some money on him in Dallas, and I'll probably do the same thing at Kiawah, because he's just that kind of big time player.
He's worth a sprinkle. And anytime you get a player of this caliber that has a 2 in front of his odds, you take it. Just like
exactly.
Rory. You took Rory just because. Just because. And it paid off at the Wells Fargo, and we'll see if it's going to pay off. Plus 2,000 for Brooks at the PGA Championship. All right. Who's your second big name player that you're keeping an eye on?
It's going to be Justin Thomas. And I think Justin, there's some question marks for Justin coming in, like we talked about with DJ, not so much off the course with Justin, but more on the course with Justin. I worry a little bit with the driver sometimes with him, and he can just kind of start spraying, right? And when he starts spraying it all over the place, it looks like he has a hard time getting it back. That's the least of my concerns. We know the iron game is great. we know the short game's great. Like I'm not worried about that. The driver issues and concerns are there for me. The one that really is the concern is the putter. He looks like he's struggling with the putter. He lost 6.5 at Valspar. He lost 1 at Wells. We know he can turn it around. We know he's a streaky putter. Like he is the streakiest putter of all of the big names that we're talking about right now.
Yes.
But he's definitely fighting it. Can he go there and recapture the flat stick? If he does, he will contend. But he's going to have to drive the ball well. He's going to have a good driving week. If he does, it'll put him on the offense. But it comes down to that flat stick. Are we going to see -5 JT? Or are we going to see +5 JT? Because there doesn't feel like there's really anything in between. So to me, he's the one that's probably, for me, the hardest to handicap because of just the inconsistencies with the flat stick.
There is no question about that. When you see the word streaky in the golf dictionary, Justin Thomas's face is right next to that word. And he's widely known as the best iron player, maybe with Colin Morikawa on the PGA Tour. Well, that's great. But if you're hitting it in the water or hitting it in the rough next week at the PGA Championship, then it doesn't matter how good your iron play is. At the Valspar, he was just doing this. He would have 2 birdies in a row and then 3 putt. 2 birdies in a row and then here's a bogey. You can't do that at the PGA Championship. Now, he is a PGA champion. He has got it done at this major championship before. Yeah. But he's now at a point where he has to look at himself and say, Rory's got a few, Brooks got a few, Jordan's got a few. I don't. Now, I've got to start stepping up. I'm not 22 anymore. He's only 27, but I'm not 22 anymore. Right. And so now it's time for JT to where the win total's at now. It's comparable to where kind of Phil was at the same point. But now he's got to start winning these majors to add to the total so that he becomes one of those all-timers. And he knows it. He knows it. We're not saying anything that JT himself doesn't know. Right. So I'm excited to see if he can put the whole game together at Q Island for sure.
And the other thing is and he knows Spieth is back and they're good friends, right? And when they both came out, Spieth had the better of him. Jordan faded, JT took off, right? And now they're both playing at a high level. And you can see the difference in the two games. Like you can see why Spieth to me is probably just that, better player than JT because they're both excellent iron players. I mean, JT, we know, is one of the best iron players. So is Spieth. I mean, he's back. He's right there with him. Their short games are really good. Their driving, we know, can both be really good or a little sporadic. But the difference is the putter. Spieth's a much better putter, and he's a much more consistent putter. So I think with JT, he knows he's back. Spieth's back. He knows that. So he knows he's got to elevate the putter if he wants a chance to beat Spieth, and because Spieth's going to be there the way that he's playing right now. So there's a lot of pressure on the flat stick for JT, and it hasn't been good. So can he turn it around?
All right, it's going to be fun to watch. Okay, the last big name player we're going to keep an eye on for me is Colin Morikawa. He's the defending champion, and nobody's talking about him right now because, let's be honest, he hasn't done anything since the calendar turned to 2021. But he has shown us, I take that back, WGC. But he has shown us that he has off weeks. The putter he struggles with, he's changed the to the cloth, whatever that thing is. And we were making fun of him before the WGC. And then he went out to concession and blitzed the field. So I wonder, coming in as the defending champion, but yet it's only been, 8 months? August to May, 9 months? How he approaches this major differently now that he's the hunted and no longer the hunter. It's going to be interesting to see how he goes about it, because when he was under pressure at Harding Park, he pulled out some of the greatest shots we've ever seen. Yeah. Will he do that on this side of the of the country?
I think the thing to note with Morikawa, we know he's a great iron player. When he won at the PGA, it was his best putting week professionally by far. There's not even a tournament that's even close to how well he putted. He was positive 8.1. His second best was positive 4.7, which was right before that at Workday. If you remember, Workday was at Memorial. I'm sorry, where they played the Memorial.
They were back-to-back on the same course.
Yeah. So at Jack's place. Yep. So those were their two best putting weeks in his professional career. Now he's had one other at 4, but that's it. I mean, the putter for the most part has been a major problem, right? And then he had the best career putting week he's ever had × 2, right?
Wow.
Times 2 and wins the PGA. Take nothing away from him, right? I'm not taking anything away. Like he's awesome. I love Colin McCourt. He's one of the best ball strikers in the game. And all that's going to be in play. His driver, his irons, we don't worry about that. It's just going to come down to the flat stick with him. His short game's PGA Tour standards is okay. It's not, I wouldn't put it top shelf like Spieth and JT, Cameron Smith, who we'll talk about. But his putting is the question mark. If he careers it again, off we go. And that's the thing you always run into, right? You know you're going to have that week. It's just, when is that week going to happen? For Morikawa, it happened at the PGA Championship. Fortunate enough for him.
See, that's why there's a lot of players that have never won a major and may never win a major that never happens.
That's exactly right.
A lot of it's luck, but a lot of it's marrying it all.
That's
and
right.
Figuring out a way to elevate it 4 times a year, and nobody was better at doing that than Jack and Tiger. All right, let's get into our sleepers now. Some guys that are kind of under the radar, maybe nobody's talking about, but that could show up at the PGA and really make some noise. Who do you like?
Who you got there first, Cody? Let's go with. No, wait a minute. That's you.
I'll go first.
Oh,
I'll
you
go first.
I'm gonna let you go first this time. You go first.
I'm gonna go Victor Hovland. Right now he's plus 2,800. He's been an absolute top 10 machine. But the reason that I picked him as one of my 2 sleepers, Trav, is that he has shown that he's not a horse for a certain course. He can play anywhere. He can do it anywhere. Plus, the one thing you have to have in a major championship is a lack of memory. Meaning, if you bogey 2 in a row or pop out a double bogey, you've got to forget about it. Remember what happened at the WGC on either the first or second day? He finished with a 9 on 18. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, he was 7 under. And then that happened. Then he came out the next day and shot like a 63.
Yeah.
The man has no memory. He's always smiling. I'm sure things bother him, but he has elevated his game to in my opinion, a top 15 player. And every time he tees it up, he can win. I definitely, at this number, I'm going to sprinkle a little bit on Victor Hovland.
I like everything about Vic. The only thing that scares me here is those pushed up greens. You know, he's going to have to throw that high shot. I think his short game is so much better, but I think he's going to have to do it over and over and over again. You know, like that, the shot of using the bounce, sliding it, tossing it up in the air. It's going to be a big test for him, I think, from that standpoint. And I think that's probably why he's 2,800. We know the ball striking is good enough to win a PGA championship. I mean,
yes, it is.
The kid is laser beams, man. I love Vic. Wouldn't be surprised if he won. But I think it's going to be just watch the shots on these pushed up greens from the collection areas. And let's see if because everybody's going to have them. You're not going to hit it you're all going to have them. And let's see if he can manage that shot over and over again, or if it becomes an issue at some point during the round.
All right. Very good. Who is your first sleeper you're looking at for next week?
There he is. Siwoo Kim plus 6,600, right? I mean, it kind of went, why not, right? PGA rewards sometimes first time major championship winners. And Siwoo, he's won a Players Championship. He won earlier in the year out on the West Coast on should I say, Pete Dye design. And he is a Pete Dye master, Siwoo. So he's not afraid of that visual intimidation. And he's just solid, coach. He's just like, I think, for Siwoo to win this thing, it feels like there's a couple things that maybe have to go his way. Like there's a couple things might have to go his way. There's certainly more talented players that we've mentioned. But he's just, he's just kind of a point A, point B guy. Good driver of the ball, good approach game, good around the green, good putter. So it's like, it's just nothing's like great, but it can be. There's signs of it to be great. But I could see him just hang around, and then can maybe a couple things goes his way, holes out a wedge. I don't know. But I think Siwoo's got the game to win a PGA. He certainly won a Players Championship, and he's very, very good on Pete Dye designs.
He's right. His face is right next to Justin Thomas's in the streaky golf dictionary. Now, he's certainly changed part of his team, and I think he's tightened his game up. because before this year, he would win the Players' Championship and then go out and shoot an 82-81 in the next tournament, and you couldn't figure out how he just won the Players' Championship. But he's fixed all that.
Yeah.
And so you don't have any more of those. He may miss cuts. Everybody does. But there's no more, hey, do you see what Siwoo did today?
Right.
He's really tightened that game up. And at 6,600, he's a player that in that category, that's worth throwing a little bit on because he has the talent and the game to certainly get it done. No doubt. No doubt. My second sleeper that I'm looking at, his name looks a little something like this. And maybe he's not even a sleeper anymore. So this is your second player. So go ahead, Trav, with Cameron Smith.
All right. So we got Cameron Smith. I'm going to give you the back-to-back here. I mean, arguably one of the hottest players, right, coming into this event. We saw him 9th at RBC, 10th at the Masters. And, you know, when you think of Cameron Smith, you kind of go the other way here. Like oftentimes, you know, I'm kind of a homer for strokes gain approach and the ball striking because I know that's what the PGA Tour is. You don't putt for dough. What's the old saying? Gosh, I'm drawing a blank right now. Drive for show, putt for dough. Drive for show, putt for dough. That's the stupidest saying. You drive for dough. You ball strike for dough. You putt for show. So I'm coming the other way out. We're going to have a little show here first with Cameron Smith. You still with me out there? Anyway, Cameron Smith.
Yes.
Going to be one of the best putters in the field. His short game is sick. I mean, the guy's short game is ridiculous good. And his approach game has been pretty good as of late. And I think that's why we've seen him elevate. His driving has been pretty good. So Cameron Smith is going to have a good ball striking week because we know the rest of it's there. His recent form certainly shows that he has been. And again, I think these are sleepers, right? So these are some things, I think there's some things that have to kind of fall their way for them to win a PGA championship. But we've seen it happen before. And when it happens, for me, Siwoo and Cameron could be a viable play to put some little sprinkle on.
When I think of Cameron Smith, this number comes to mind because he normally has this many good rounds every single week. He's got to figure out a way have 4 rounds because he has driven me nuts. He's made me a lot of money this year.
Yeah.
But there's been several weeks where he'll come out on Saturday and be right there on the first page of the leaderboard, and I'll go to play golf or something, come back. Oh, what happened to Cameron Smith? He shot a 77 today because he couldn't. And then the next day, I fade him, and then he comes back out and shoots a 65.
It's true.
He's got to figure out a way to put 4 rounds together. If he can do that, then he definitely has the game to win his first major at this event.
Real quick, now, I think, for Cameron, he wants the wind to blow. Like, he wants to dirty it up. You know how, like in basketball and football, there's teams that kind of dirty it up a little bit, right?
Yep.
Because it's going to give him, he wants this to dirty up because he wants it to become a short game contest because that's where his strength is. The forecast is calling for some wind. So you put a little wind in there.
Windier the better for a guy like him. You can't have perfect. We saw what happened at the Byron Nelson. You have perfect weather. They will eat up even a 7,800 yard course. They just will. For a guy like Cameron Smith, you talk about the luck and things that have to come together. It's got to be windy. It's got to be windy. All right, our final sleeper, and then we'll get into 2 guys that we think could win their first major next week. I'm going to go with Sam Burns. Now, he may not be a sleeper anymore because he just won at the Valspar, but the number, Trav, says that he is a sleeper at plus 6,600 to win it all. At Valspar, he showed me a lot because we've seen him throughout 2021 show up on a lot of leaderboards, but then he would fade on Sunday, and seemingly the pressure really got to him. How he finished at the Valspar showed me a lot. He told Keegan Bradley, little boy, go sit on the side. This is how you finish a golf tournament. And I think that right now, the confidence is at an all-time high.
Yeah.
I had him in the category with Tony Finau before, but he's no longer in that category.
No.
Now he's going out there, and he knows he can win on the PGA Tour, and I believe he has the game to win a major championship.
Well, you're preaching to the choir. I think it's great. The number's fantastic for Sam Burns. Sam Burns, if I had to pick a major that he would win, it would be the PGA. I think he's got the game for it. He played good today in Dallas. He's on a heater. He's the real deal, folks. There's more wins coming, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if he won the PGA.
You never want to take weeks off when you're playing like Sam Burns. He took last week off because he had to. You got to be smart. You got to lay out your schedule. But you never want to sit on the bench when you're playing as good as Sam Burns is. Okay, we're down to our final 2 picks of the show, and we want to thank everybody for watching this PGA Championship preview show. Don't forget, we will have our regular episode of Cash Out with the Coaches next week, where we actually make our picks and our bets for the tournament. Give me one name that nobody's talking about that never has won a major championship that could step in and win their first major next week.
Well, let's put it this way. If this name comes up at the top of the leaderboard, I may have to take the rest of the year off. But I'll give you a name. Garrick Higo.
Who?
Yeah. South African, 22 years of age, coach.
Okay.
And he's won 3 times on the European Tour. 3 times. Okay. Twice in the last month. Okay. Garrick Higo. Left-handed. Bombs it. Like, and it looks like he's not even swinging either. I mean, it's effortless. Iron game appears to be pretty good. Now, I know the European Tour is not the PGA Tour. I get that. Iron game appears to be pretty solid. And the kid can putt, too. Like, he can really putt. And he wears these little, like, corny glasses. You know, these little, like, mosquito glasses. and he's a trip. He's a damn trip. I can't wait to watch him play. I've been watching him in the morning on the European Tour, and I can't wait to watch him. The United States has never seen this kid, and he's going to come over here, and he's going to be, and I think he'll just tee it up, and he won't give 2 cents. He'll just let it go. He just strikes me as, get out of my way. Here it comes. Bomb it off the tee. The kid can really putt. I don't know if he'll win. I mean, let's be honest, but 100 to 1, you never know, right? I mean, he's put up some really good numbers. He won. I think he won by 5 or 6 last time. He was 23-24 under par on the European Tour. In the last tournament. 2 names
for you, Trav. 2 names for you. Keegan Bradley, Jason Duffner.
Yeah.
Do you think the years they won the PGA Championship that they were better than 100 to 1?
Remember Michael Campbell in the US Open? Michael Campbell in the US.
Yeah.
That's what it kind of feels like,
who's
you know.
To say?
Yeah, it's what it kind of feels like. He's young, and he just doesn't. He doesn't look intimidated at all. I can't wait to watch him play. Garrick Higo.
And I'm guessing because the European Tour is on like 2 a.m. out here. I live on the West Coast. I can never watch it. But I'm guessing because of how he's winning that he's got this swagger and this confidence about him, because you have to have when you're playing at this level. You've got to have it. And I would love to see that come out of him.
Oh, I hope he comes out, shoots 68 Thursday, 69 Friday. It'd be phenomenal.
Awesome.
It'd be phenomenal to have Garrett with Spieth. I mean, it'd be great.
I would have to turn off my phone because you'd be texting me so damn much I wouldn't be able to take it. All right, our final pick of the show. And it's apropos that this is the last guy that we're talking about because we're trying to wait for him to win on the PGA Tour. And damn it, Tony Finau is going to somehow get the job done. And because I can feel it. But look at the number, Trav. Look at the number, plus 3,300. The market does not allow you to play him as a long shot because he always is a top 10 machine. But at some point, and maybe this is his Sam Burns moment, he gets it done. First PGA Tour win in the continental United States, but also his first major, all wrapped in a nice little bow. I can see it happen. It's not that far-fetched for me to see that happening.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think it would be phenomenal, right? I mean, you're preaching to the choir for the Tony Finau Club. I love Tony Finau, but to win a golf tournament, you have to have situational golf. And
I know.
And it's like Finau can do all the things that are needed to put up great scores, but then situationally, just like we talked about with Spieth, right? Now it's a different game. It's a different switch. What are you going to do from this point on? I'm out. I'm out. Like he just, to win. Now, top 10, yeah, all day. I'll throw my wallet at that for a top 10. But to win your first major championship, I hope it happens. I think it would be phenomenal if Tony Finau won the Finau. I would eat crow. I would I'm all in on Tony Finau, Boyd Summerhays team. But I'm just not feeling it. Like, I'm just not feeling the Finau vibes anymore and winning. That chip up and down in California, for crying out loud, get the ball up and down to win, right? For crying out loud, make a birdie down the stretch at Waste Management in one of the last 5 holes to win and beat Webb. Speaking of Webb Simpson and Paul Tesori, get it done.
I know. When you look at 2021, 2021,
yeah,
Bryson, DJ, Colin Morikawa, Rory, Spieth, JT. What do all those names have in common, Trav?
Sorry, I wasn't listening.
You never listen to me. But they've all won this season on the PGA Tour. All the big boys are playing at a high level, and I think that we are lining up with the PGA Championship as the first week of maybe the best summer of golf we have seen in a very, very, very long time, and I'm ready for it.
Yeah, I'm ready for it. This has been great. A lot of stuff. We're going to come back Tuesday, give you our picks. But it's here, PGA Championship. Kiwa, what a course. It's going to be awesome.
All right. We want to thank, as always, our incredible sponsors and partners at Sports Pub Media, Samantha and Cody, who put all the stuff together. He's Travis Fulton. I am the coach. Thanks for watching our mega PGA Championship preview show. We'll see you the middle of next week as we give you all the winners. And remember, this is the only place where every single week, and especially at majors, you get to cash out with the coaches. See ya.